Hello there, it is Saturday evening here in England and my name is Klaus. I'm doing a brand new podcast for Eadn where we're going to talk everything Eadn, including of course the current League 3. I'll be talking to various players from various teams, giving some insight on all of the matches that are taking place in the league, including those that have taken place in the previous round and of course the matches upcoming. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Today we have Silent from the 8th Avenue Furies. Thank you for joining.
No problem. Pleasure.
Awesome. We have a lot to get into, including the epic match, of course, between the Triples and Revolution. Very exciting that was. But let's start from the top with Mad Demons losing to EAF. Of course, it's only the first round. They can still fix it. They've got a long way to go yet. But it was quite a surprise, don't you think?
It was. I didn't expect us to go 4-0 up right at the start. That didn't only surprise us, but I think it surprised all the refs and everyone else watching. There was obviously a big turnout on the Discord, a lot of spectators in the chat. And after going back through the logs, no one expected us to be 4-0 up at half-time.
Yeah, so let's talk about the first base, the print works. I mean, EAF looked completely in control the whole time. Did you practice quite a lot on the print works?
Actually, no. We practiced more on the other base, which was the Stand Express, but more on that, obviously, a bit later. You would say in yourself, you were surprised that MD picked that base, considering your history with it.
Yes, I don't think it's a great base to defend, even more difficult to attack, because of the various spots you can snipe from. It favours snipers, which I dislike a lot. I can't stand snipers. So we used this base when I played with the 9th Avenue Furies. That was League 2, I believe.
Yeah.
And we struggled a lot on it because we kept getting killed by snipers when trying to take the CP. I noticed you did use that tactic when you defended.
We did. We wanted to try something different. It was Sean's idea to go with 2 snipers for that round and to bench me because the base really isn't that good for Spaz.
I agree. It does favour probably mid-range to long-range. There's not a lot of areas for CQB unless you stay around those alleyways by the print works.
Yes, I did end up playing the first round, the attacking, but originally I wasn't supposed to. We had some troubles getting the 5th member, so I had to step in. But it ended up becoming a pretty solid attacking round, although I think MD, what they did was they tried to field a new player, a player who's not really had much experience with EAD. It was Gohan. It was his first competitive match, and he was already struggling with 10k ping. He ended up getting removed pretty quickly towards the start, and from there on in, we went into the print works. I didn't. I stayed around the outskirts trying to stick into the close quarter battle areas. And Sean was, I think, clearing out some people with the RPG. Sean and Pyro were very deadly together with nades and RPG. I think that was a key element there.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about Pyro for a second. He looks to be, the next big thing for EAF. He looks to be the main man. Is that right?
He does. Well, he spends more time on EAD than any of us. Probably me and Sean are come the closest. But obviously, both of us know Pyro from when he was in Argonath, but he's changed massively in the 2 years that he has been playing BCMB.
No doubt, he's improved massively. For me, he stands out in the AF team. He's incredibly deadly. He's ruthless.
I know he likes the nade set with Ruger or M4, whatever you give him. Obviously Ruger, but he can use the Ruger. And then the nades, he knows where to place them.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the remote nades have become a lot more popular over the last year or two. Not many players were using them before, I believe it was Championship 3. Cristiano was using the remote nades, which surprised a lot of people.
I think Omar Roche is really the father of remote nades. He was using it for ages. I remember in Champ 2, the final between Klaus and Wilson, he was there using the remote nades in the Prawn Mansion base. I think that's the earliest I remember.
Okay, so the print works, you go 2-0 up. You smash it on the printworks, and then it was the cherry poppers.
Cherry poppers, yes. Bit of a miscommunication on that base. I thought I was the one to be capturing the CP, however, it was actually Sean, so I ended up being in the wrong place there. But it didn't really hamper our progress. We still captured it pretty quickly. And kind of tried the same tactic. They tried to do to us what we did to them. And for the first part, it was working. They got 2 of us down immediately. It was me and Aaron that died pretty early. But after that, there seemed to have just been a meltdown, and Alaba, Sean, and Afanster rallied pretty well. Afanster actually killed Hazard, Vice City Dueling Championship runner-up finalist, in a 1v1 duel.
I watched that duel, and it really surprised me, honestly. They were dueling around the tool shop in Havana, and Hazard fell to Afanster's stubby shotgun. Wow, what a shock that was.
I think Alaba really came to his own in that base. Him and Sean were in charge of the CP. I think there was 3 of them that had landed. I know Majball was there with his nades, and Freaker, I think he was there with the RPG.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting you mentioned Alaba, because he actually got 4 kills over those 2 rounds. Definitely his favourite base. I know he has a lot of experience playing on that base. But let's talk about Hazard. We were just talking about Hazard. I mean,
Hazard, yeah.
he was nowhere near himself this match, was he?
Really, no. It was the most dangerous person on MD actually looked to be Lumberjack, who seems to have taken over as the strategist guy after, sadly, Dark Wolf passing. But Lumberjack with M4, he kind of kept switching sets. He obviously stepped up to be the sniper in the print workspace, which obviously didn't go well for them. It's just because we found out where he was and he didn't change position quick enough. And he really did feel like he was thinking up most of the strats. What else can you say? Uncle Mashbor was decent. I thought he got a couple of kills in there, especially in the rounds that they won. But what really let MD down was Hazard. He didn't turn up.
No.
His RPG wasn't as good as it was for Axo's team in the last championship.
Yeah, and in the last championship, he was also very deadly with the shotgun as well. He didn't lose a duel. And as you mentioned earlier, he won the dueling championship as well. So we know his qualities in CQB, but he didn't show it. Maybe he wasn't able to. Maybe did you have a tactic to avoid getting into duels with Hazard?
Not really, no. The main tactics was we had to try and win the defending bases because we thought that ND would hunker down defensively and it would be harder to attack them rather than win defensively. So our main aim was to win the defensive rounds, which obviously we ended up winning Project's defense, which won us the match, which was a big round.
Yeah, that was a big round. The 4-0 advantage after the first 2 bases, as you mentioned earlier, it was a surprise even to your team. But then you went into the next base, which was the Span Express, and it all started to go downhill for EF. It's sort of a turning point in the match.
Yes. Well, it was at that time at 4-0 that ND took out their probably least experienced player, Gohan, and brought in Freaker, who obviously has played for MD before in the last championship. And then we did lose Pyro for 1 round. He had a real-life emergency. We had to bring in a quick replacement. We brought in Dez, who didn't really make a difference.
He did grab a kill in the first, the only round he played, he got a kill. But then he was so quickly substituted in the next round.
Yes, he got a kill right at the start, I remember, because I was helping him. It was a 2v1 on Cody. Cody had spaz, so he tried to rush the village area. But after that, kind of went wrong. I should have stayed a bit in the area. I got lured out into an open area, so a bit my fault. But I didn't expect, Sean to get killed so quickly. He was with RPG that round, and there were some questions about whether he was hitting them or whether it was some suspicious movements there on some of the MD members. I remember that was getting talked about a lot in our team chat.
Okay, so let's talk about Sean for a second. I don't think RPG set is his strength. I really don't. I've seen him use RPG a couple of times. For me, he's not that great with it, accuracy-wise
No.
and ideas-wise. Let's talk about the second round where they attacked the Spand Express. Pyro
Yeah.
fell to a Heliblade in the
He
first
did.
few minutes.
He did. He was going to try and help Alava, and he got drawn out into the main road area, and he was just easy bait. Obviously, after that early kill, kind of fell into a bit disarray. I managed to stay alive for a bit, but for most of that round, I was 3v1, and eventually I fell when it became 4v1. I just couldn't survive.
All right, so the match goes 4-2. MD starting to get some belief, and we go into the projects rounds. And this is where the match was really decided. In the first round, MD won that and took it to 4-3, which added even more pressure on you guys going into the last final round. But what was the feelings in that going into that last round?
It was definitely tension. Some people thought it was going to end up being another draw. Mostly Sean was trying to rally everyone together, saying this was our chance because we had a decent projects defense practice. When we practiced the space and defense, we were pretty decent. We knew coming into projects defense that nades would be the main issue here because obviously there's no limit to the range that you can use nades and the amount of CQB area there is. That was going to be the main issue. So if we could get rid of Majbor, then I could defend the CP. I could run in and chainsaw the CP taker and quickly run out because of the amount of cover that was there. That was the plan that we had.
Yeah, and it definitely worked. Pyro was very good on this base. He got quite a few kills. I think 4 or 5 kills over the 2 rounds.
Yes, he got 3 kills that round, and that was because one of their members, which kind of was the turning point, it was 3v2 until Hazard did a close-range RPG, which might have been the turning point in the final round. Once Hazard got removed, it came down to Freaker and Lumberjack, who I'm pretty sure were both using M4, which made it pretty easy for me, the Spaz, and Pyro the Nader to just defend CP, play defensively. We didn't need to do anything stupid.
All right, so EAF, first win in the league. It's looking good for them, and MD, a not so great start to the league, and they'll be looking to get a win in the next round. So let's move on to the next match, and that was RT versus MK. What did you make of this match?
Well, it was closer than I thought, but I think RT will probably be kicking themselves that they didn't pick up the win from this match because they've been training so hard. They're always in casual EAD, and I've seen them in their private server. And despite all that training, I was seeing some rookie mistakes from some of their members. It was particularly Masteros in the Junkyard base, which was surprising. It seems as RT rely a lot on Severin's leadership.
I think what you have to remember with RT, they do have a lot of inexperience in their ranks. I mean,
yes, they do.
Looking at, as you mentioned, Master OZ, they have Mason Martyrdom, is that how you pronounce it? There's a lot of inexperienced players in that team, so that they're going to struggle a bit with that, aren't they?
Yes, they will. I did say at the start of the match that it would all depend on if Severin turned up or not, and if Masteros could hold his own in a competitive match, because he did have a previous tournament, Championship 3, but he didn't have a lot of pressure on him because he was playing with Juan and Fulton, who could probably clutch around if it was 1v4 or 1v3. So, but there's a lot more pressure on his shoulders because he is their second best player behind Severin. So he needs to step up.
Yeah, it could be his moment to shine. It really could. Let's talk about MK. Who impressed you in the MK ranks?
Definitely Elk. His M60 was obviously deadly. He was MVP with 9 kills, and most of the rounds he could solo. He was very good on the junkyard bases, knew what to do, lured people into the RPG's fire. Again, a bit of a rookie mistake from RT, falling for the bait, getting baited into the roads.
And I think we need to mention Houcher as well. I mean, he's got a lot of experience. We know all about him.
A lot of experience, though. I thought it was a quiet game from him. Didn't get a lot of kills, He got 2 kills on the Fields Blaze, and then he really started picking it up towards the end of the game. He was getting a lot of kills towards the end.
Totally agree. I think with Houcher, maybe he had a bit of a rusty start.
Yeah.
Getting back into it, needed maybe a warm-up. He actually got, 5 kills over the 2 rounds on Phil's place.
They only won the attacking round on Phil's place.
That's true.
And RT were 4-2 down going into their home base, the Airport Jetty, where they really rallied together and won both bases, which was might be a turning point for them.
Yeah, so let's talk about how the match progressed then. It began on the downtown Emulation compound. I know you have experience playing on this base during competitive rounds, is that right?
Yes, and what surprised me, and I think it surprised a few of the refs as well, particularly Wilson, was that both teams attacking the base lost. It was a win, which is technically, it's easier to attack this base than defend it, in my own honest opinion.
Yeah, this base is definitely advantageous to the attacking team because the attacking team can make use of all the surrounding roofs. They can long range with their RPG. They can long range with snipers, M4s, M60s, etc., etc. And when you're defending it, you're very cornered. You're constantly getting shot from all different angles. It's very difficult to defend.
It was pretty close in round 1, though RT did lose a member almost immediately. I think it was an M60 heli kill, but obviously he didn't get the kill because he died in a car crash. And after that, RT just lost 3 people too early. Severin tried to rally them with 2 kills, but by then it was kind of game over. But in MK attacking the base, didn't seem like they knew what they were doing. It was a flawless round from RT. They didn't lose anybody.
So then we move on to the Junkyard, one of your favourite bases, I know. Again, a base that you would say probably favours the attacking team, I think. Is that your opinion, or do you have a different opinion?
Well, I think it's pretty even. Obviously, in Championship 3, we didn't lose an attacking round on this base, but we only lost 1 defending round, or 2 defending rounds, and that was obviously the final, and against Sean's team, which was a handicapped match, 4v4. But if you take up good positions, you can successfully defend this base.
It's all about knowing how to defend it, isn't it? And knowing where, like, the positions the attackers can take. There's the main roof where most roofers go. I think it's to the east, isn't it?
You can threaten on this base. So you know where the RPG is going to go because there's really only one roof. So you know where you need to go to avoid that RPG. But what RT did wrong is that they kept following people that were on their own into the RPG's line of fire. They kept getting a bit too kill greedy there.
So they were using kind of a decoy to pull people out into the open. Maybe they just need to be a bit more conservative when playing, be a bit more patient with their approach.
Yeah. I think it was a bit of an experience there from Master Oz and Martyrdom, just getting lured out a bit too easily.
And then they played on the Phil's place. We mentioned earlier, Houcher really come into his own during this space, got quite a few kills, but it did go both ways, each of them winning 1 round. Was that right? It
did. MK were immediately 5-4 down in the attacking area because they lost one of their members to timeout or game crash, and they immediately lost another person to heli blades, so they're automatically now at a 5-3 advantage.
Yeah, and then Houcher tried to fight back, got a couple of kills, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah, so, and eventually he couldn't stop the checkpoint because he had Severin breathing down his back, and he had to focus on the nades, and he was already knocked down at the time the checkpoint was taken, so it wouldn't have made a difference if the timer was high up.
And so RT got back into the game after going 3-1 down. It's now 3-2, a bit more pressure on MK going into the next round. And it went MK's way again. And this time it was a flawless victory by MK. No kills for RT. That must have hurt RT's confidence.
Yes, it did. But MK really played the round pretty flawlessly. RT's plan there was sniping, and the snipers did not pick good enough spots because they immediately got found. And it became too easy for MK to just hunt down and 2v1 all of the RT members because none of them stuck together.
The Airport Jetty was the last base to be played, and the RT are going in 4-2 down. They definitely need to win the next 2 rounds if they want to draw, and they did. They managed it. They won both rounds. Where did it go wrong for MK?
Well, I thought MK tried to play 2 snipers when they were defending, and I didn't understand that at all. They went all the way to the airport runaway, which is obviously, you can get helibladed pretty easily. And all 5 of our team members went for the 2 snipers because they found them immediately. So MK are now at a 5-3 disadvantage.
4-4 at the end of the match. Who's more happy with the draw, MK or RT?
I'd say MK definitely would be more happy with the draw. RT would be, I think, gutted that they lost the game or tied the game on one of their own bases because the Junkyard, they're going to be playing that base every game and they really need to start winning rounds on it.
Prediction-wise, who finishes above who in the league?
I would say RT rally in the next few games to finish above MK. That's my prediction.
Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, and then going into the last match of the first round, it was the exciting Revolution plus, as we now know, some TLA members in there as well, against the Triples, which is a combination of 3 clans, I believe, is a DU, EK, and F2. So we've got a lot of different clans in this battle going on here between Revolution and the Triples. But I was really excited about this match because I was interested to see how R3V do, because there's quite a few players there, some inexperienced, some experienced, some names I'd never heard of before, and some of those names impressed me. The match began on the Faceti Mansion back. It went both ways, 1-1 after this base, and there was a lot of shouts over a short-range RPG kill from Juan, and he got removed. In the end, I don't think that made much of a difference because he was the only one left alive. There was a lot of shouts about it, but I think in the end it didn't make much of a difference.
Referees, Sean and Pyro, they went in and tested it afterwards, and it was actually below 20 metres. The kill was 19 metres from exactly where Juan shot the RPG. So, despite all their claims, it was a correct call from Sean to remove it. I was disappointed. I thought Revolution was going to win this match pretty comfortably. I thought it was going to be a 6-2 victory to them. They've got a lot of experience. They were missing a key member. Obviously, Fraley V wasn't there. He's played in a couple of matches before. But I thought Revolution could have easily won this match, but they made some big mistakes, particularly in the later rounds. But Triples played well when in the first round, Faceti Mansion back. They picked 3 members of R3V got picked off pretty quickly, which was surprising.
Yeah, so the first round, they go 3 down instantly almost, and they played really well that first round, but then the second round, R3V just turned it completely, and they just outplayed the Triples tactically, I thought. Gohan took an interesting position with the sniper, which worked a treat. He killed, I believe, Wilson with the sniper rifle, and the Triples just looked completely lost that round.
They didn't. They all landed separately. None of the Triples stuck together, so it was easy prey for Revolution.
Yeah, and that continued as well, going into the next base, the Rabina's Cafe, which was the Revolution's base, and they played superbly on this base. They really did.
They had the tactics for this base. You can see why they picked it. They're not every member of the team knows what they're supposed to be doing on that base.
Yeah, and again, brilliant play by Gohan with the sniper rifle as well.
Juan and Gohan work pretty well together. Obviously, they've worked together before. But saying that, Triples really looked a bit lost on attacking Rabinas. They went 5-3 up. They got 2 pretty early kills. But after that, it's like they didn't really know what to do. Some members were trying to cap the CP, even though they were clearly getting sniped from 2 locations. And there was an RPG also stopping them. So it was weird play by the Triples.
I think they were surprised by R3V's tactics. I don't think they thought that maybe they would use a sniper, because usually if you think the defending team is going to be using snipers, you keep someone in the air or you keep a helicopter close by so you can get around the map quickly and scout for the sniper, but it didn't seem that they were doing that. Obviously, they didn't find it.
It did seem pretty weird because Robina's Cafe has been used before, again, by your old team, the Ninth Avenue Razors, League 2, and you placed Gamiro at a sniping position on that base, and we as EAF quickly found him. So it shouldn't have totally been out of the question that Revolution would have a sniper on this base.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that the Triples need to think more closely about the opposition and what kind of tactics they're going to use. So let's talk about South Point Mall, which was the next base, and this was interesting rounds as well.
I'm not a big fan of this base. The Vice Underdogs use this base a lot, and obviously in the past 3 events, League 2 and Championship 3. But the Triples, I thought they got a bit lucky, especially when Revolution were defending the base. Obviously, no kills took place that round. It was just a straight swoop to the checkpoint by the Triples. And I think after Revolution, their sniper has to take the blame for that loss.
You say that let's blame the sniper, but how can 4 other players in that team not be anywhere near the checkpoint?
Well, the Triples had the plan of the RPG to cover, the swirly car park, which is like the only way to get up to the roof. So they had to have known that was there because an RPG, you're easy bait for an RPG. So they had to have another plan to stop CP capture.
Yeah, don't you think it's a big risk though on that base to not leave someone by the checkpoint?
It could be a big risk. However, if you leave someone by the checkpoint, odds are they're going to die pretty quickly because the area is so open, and at you could easily get killed by an RPG anywhere on that roof.
You can, that is true, but I think it's worth the risk. So we go on to the Scumhole Shack, and it's 3-3, it's evens, there's a lot of pressure, both sides, and in the end, no one comes out on top. The first goes to the Triples. What did you make of this base?
Well, I thought it was another surprising base, particularly from the Triples. They obviously had Pavonis using a sniper was a first. I've never seen him normally use a sniper before. But one got taken out immediately, and that was their RPG gone. And after Revolution rallied a bit, but they only were able to take out, in my opinion, probably the weakest members of their starting lineup. And Gohan had a mare with the VCN helicopter, tried to do Heavy Blade, and then ended up killing himself, which was a big disappointment.
I think that first kill as well, like you mentioned, the sniper kill on Juan, that's massive. That's massive, and that instantly changes the match, or that round, in an advantage for the Triples. So they go 4-3 up. It's on their shoulders. They could win it 5-3, but of course they don't. R3V come back and draw it 4-4.
They did, and it was a mistake by the Triples RPG player, Jinx. The Triples had a good plan. For a second, they were 5 seconds from capturing the CP. But their RPG player, or Wilson, I think it was Wilson, made a huge mistake in not standing at the stairs too much. He stopped for a second and Revolution were able to sneak in and disrupt the CP. So a big blunder there from Wilson. And also Jinx, the RPG player, not covering the stairs. That's where they came from. And you can put that down to him having an RPG battle with Juan, who was trying to stop him so he could get his team up there. But I think it was major blunder from Wilson, and that's the reason they drew.
Yeah, so let's talk about the players then. Let's start with Wilson, who's the captain of the Triples. What did you make of his performance?
It was a good performance, from the team captain. I do sadly think that he is probably the weakest player in that team, but that's nothing to do with the fact that he's bad. It's just that there's a lot of talent in that team, and I think tactics-wise he aces it, but obviously when it comes to combat, I think the others just take it.
I think the interesting part was that he's switched set. I mean, we all know Wilson for using the rocket launcher. He was using the remote nade set, something new there, which we hadn't seen before. And I think he was still getting to grips to that because most of his kills in the past have always been kills with the RPG.
In their team, obviously Jinx is very good with the RPG. He does have the odd occasional close range kill, and he has been banned for it before. But Wilson decided to let Jinx take the reins of the RPG, and he decided to try out a different set.
Talking about Jinx, I think he did well. I didn't think he was that bad with the RPG. He got some important kills. I remember in the South Point Mall, he was sort of caught between, I think it was Gohan, in a duel, and he managed to blind fire an RPG and kill Gohan. Like, surprisingly, Gohan was completely and utterly baffled by how Jinx saw him behind the wall, but I think it was just a hit and hope, really. He didn't know he was there. He just hit the rocket and hoped that he was behind the wall, and he was.
Yes, Jinx actually, his position got found out pretty quickly, but Revolution couldn't assault it. He had his car park area bunkered down pretty well. He obviously killed Gohan, but he also severely weakened another member and ended up getting an assist.
Yep. So, let's talk about the R3V squad. Who impressed you?
Well, definitely Gohan and Juan. I think those two are the main players in that team. And obviously they didn't have their vice captain today, which I think they did miss a bit. They obviously fielded another team. I think Kelvin, I've seen him play before. I know what he can do. He's a good player. Didn't really get many kills today. He's obviously the M60 player. And I thought I was surprised by Predator, because Predator I've never heard of him before. And he got quite a few kills in this match. I think it was around 5 or 6.
Yes. He really impressed me as well. I'd never heard of him, the same as you. And he looks deadly in CQP. He really does. He got quite a few kills with the shotgun and with M4. He seems to be that kind of all-rounder kind of player. Is comfortable in the mid-range as well as the CQB range. And he did really well. He really did. Talking about players who didn't do that well, I felt Pavonis could have done a lot better. He didn't really do much until that late sniper kill. Going into the next round, who is looking better? R3V or is it the triples?
If Revolution can start playing well other away bases, because on their own bases they look solid. Rabina's Cafe and Scumhole Shack, they did look pretty good.
Apart from that laser sniper kill, wasn't it? That took them by surprise. Yeah.
Revolution lost the attacking round on Scumhole Shack, but I think they will work on that and they will understand. They will look at where it went wrong, and I think they are one of the favourites to win the whole thing, in my opinion.
And the triples.
Well, I'm looking forward to the triples versus Vice Underdogs. Obviously, we haven't seen VU in the league yet because they had a break there. And I'm keen to see if the triples can fix their errors on a few of the bases. I'm keen to see how they improve when attacking the Seti Mansion back, where Revolution had a flawless round.
So, we've got 3 matches next week. It is EAF versus MK, VU versus the Triples, and R3V versus the Mad Demons. Let's talk a bit about VU, because this is their first match of the league versus the Triples. Do you think they're going into this as favourites?
I do, simply because they have a lot of experience and a lot of talent in their roster. Obviously, VU are fielding just themselves. Last league, they fielded 2 teams, and one of them went on to win it. So there are some defending champions in that team.
I think with the Vice Underdogs, they've got a problem that no other team has, and that is, what is my best team? I mean, they have so many good players. Trying to find the best 5 is a challenge for them. I mean, it's a good challenge to have.
It is a challenge, and that's where it really comes down to the captain to decide what he wants to do. Does he want, maybe against some teams he fields a different lineup, and against other teams he'll field a more experienced lineup?
Which lineup do you predict for this match?
Well, I'm predicting 3 experienced players and maybe 2 players that they might constantly sub out. I think there will be a few substitutions in VU in this game.
I'm hoping to see Blitz because I think he's criminally underrated, even though people are aware of his ability. But for some reason, he never comes into the discussion of a top 5. Vircho, I think he's incredibly good communication-wise. And the other person I hope to see is Omarosh, because we mentioned earlier about his use of the remote grenades. I think he could be very useful.
Yes, I'm hoping to see Nyon. Obviously, Nyon was in my team, and I was pleasantly surprised by how well he does with the M60. Obviously, I think Caesar, the main M60 player, is taking a sort of back seat this league after captaining the last league victory. So that might make way for Nyon to become the new M60 player in that team. And also, obviously, we know what MD619 can do. He did play in the league victory, RPG player, but he can also use M4. So that's another dangerous person to look out for.
Yeah, that is true, although MD619 did not have a successful championship. I think we need to remember that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about EAF versus MK. Are you confident going into this match?
I'm more confident than I was going in against MD, simply because I think I'll be able to have more of an impact myself personally against MK. I think I like the bases that I'm playing on, apart from Phil's place. But I'm looking forward to going back to the compound.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if possibly Des will get more playtime, because I think he's got a lot of ability. Didn't really get a chance to show it. However, I think Aaron came in and did really well. He's one of those players, I think, that he may not get a lot of kills, but he's incredibly difficult to kill, because we will know about his lag. Yeah, go on.
It did take. We were worried that Aaron wasn't going to be there. It did take a lot of persuading and poking to get him to play, and we wanted to play him against MD simply because he knows them from European City, so he knows how good they are and what each player is good at. So it's sort of like know your enemy, if you know what I'm saying. A lot of people are predicting an EAF victory. I'm not so sure it will be as easy as what they're saying. I think the main key rounds will be the compound. If we can snatch a win at the compound and hold our own on our own basis, that might be enough for a victory.
I expect EAF to do well on the compound, only because you've played a lot on that base before in previous leagues, and you should know it well. So I'm expecting you to win at least the attacking round. It would be a shock if you don't. But I do expect to see MK put up a good fight, especially Elk. We know his ability, and of course Houcher. Those two are going to be really good in the mid-range M60, M4, so you're going to have to watch out for that. I expect a close tie. R3V fight the Mad Demons, so the Mad Demons coming off a loss. They really need to win this.
They do, but I just can't see them doing it. I think it's going to be a 5-3 victory to Revolution, simply because I think what we won against MD because we outsmarted them. MD aren't the best when it comes to tactics. They may be good individually at fighting, but this is a team game. This isn't a dueling area.
Yeah, and R3V showed they can really put together a good plan, especially on their own bases.
And I think R3V it's all going to come down to the print workspace yet again. I think MD made a big mistake picking that base.
Yeah, and we've already seen that Gohan is pretty good with the sniper, so I'm expecting him to use that in the defending rounds. It's whether or not MD have learnt from the previous match and will expect it this time and maybe check and scout around all the different locations. They might surprise us. They might actually do a little practice. We'll have to wait and see. That brings us to the end of this podcast. So thank you for joining me, Silent.
No problem, anytime.
And hopefully we'll have the next podcast come out after the next round. So we'll see you all then.